Why, hello everybody. Today I'm on my Washington beach during a beautiful sunset, watching these birds go off on all the various food that just washed up. And I'm feeling really good today because I just completed my final math homework assignment ever. Anybody that knows me personally knows that math has for a long time been my biggest struggle, and if anything was ever going to keep me from being a scientist or anything in the STEM field, it was math. And now that is behind me. I've finished multivariable calculus, and God forbid anything else happens, I think I never have to take a math class again, and I can't even. Oh, this is a topic that I'm not even sure I can make a video about, but I'm just going to talk about. And that is how my experiences with psychedelics have given me a newfound love for the simple, for the extremely simple things in life. What would it look like if we all fell in love with the simple again? Well, I suppose it would probably look something like early human society. But we don't want to go back to early human society. We might think we do, but once we were actually in early human society, we would just find ourselves yearning for a change of pace, because that's what humans are like. We're always yearning for a change of pace. So maybe falling in love with the simple isn't a solution to anything. Maybe it's just a byproduct of removing some of the filters that we may have had applied for us or applied ourselves to the way that we see the world. I think when I imagine what an enlightened being would be like if one could exist or does exist, they would be profoundly in love with the simple. The primary aspects of sitting, of laying, of looking, of feeling, of hearing and smelling, our primary senses and the way that we interact with them, it has no love in it anymore. It's interesting to consider what would happen if we did all fall in love with the simple things like looking at the sky every day for long periods of time or watching the stars come out. I mean, anybody who works is already thinking, I have to go to work in the morning. I can't I can't be up all night looking at the stars. And so you see our problem. We've built a society where it's completely dysfunctional to fall in love with the simple. And maybe fair enough. I mean, humans have always had to scratch their way tooth and claw to enjoy the simple things. But maybe there will be a time where there's enough productivity and abundance where we can actually discover what we originally wanted, because I think we lost the forest for the trees when we evolved. I think we built better and better technology to enhance our quality of life and then fell in love with that technology and completely forgot about our quality of life. And in the struggle for having a surplus of food and water and medicine, we forgot why we even wanted that in the first place. I wonder, what is the state of being like where you're not wondering what you have to do next? And I've gotten so many glimpses of that, but my ultimate fear is that not worrying about what you have to do next is it's this letting go, it's this release that I'm afraid, it's this leap that I'm afraid to make, because I'm afraid I won't come back. Honestly, I'm afraid I won't come back. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we've built a system of interacting with each other on a large scale that designates somebody who falls in love with the deeply simple things psychotic, basically, is what I'm saying. If you had a friend who suddenly wanted to spend the day looking at one stone, we would diagnose that probably as some type of disorder if they're not a geologist. But what if they really just wanted to take in that stone? Because you can stare at different aspects of a stone for 1,000 years. You could look at one stone for thousands of lifetimes. And that's very, maybe silly to say, but it really is true, because there's no set number of ways that we know that you can interact with something. How many different ways can you knock that stone with your knuckles? How many different ways can your knuckles hit the stone? How many different ways can you see the different textures on that stone? Can you look at the stone under a microscope? Can you look at the stone from far away? Can you look at it from close up? So you see that there are approaching what seem to be infinite number of ways to interact with this stone. And it's really a miracle that humans have this ability to filter out that fact that they could interact with the stone any number of ways, and to instead categorize the ways that they can interact with the stone that have utility. For example, they can sharpen it and make a weapon. They can cook with it. They can do all sorts of things that actually enhance their quality of life or experience. It's our seeing everything as a tool or an object to be manipulated that may blind us to certain fundamental beauties. And maybe that's just so. Maybe it should be that way. But it's interesting nonetheless that it's not really an option to choose to not filter everything out. For example, the psychedelic experience, which is when many filters are lifted on perception, it's not stable. It's not something that can be sustained. If you had a family member that suddenly couldn't stop looking at the window pane or the way that light went across the room when there was dust in the air for hours, we would be worried for this person. And of course, in a more ancient context, they wouldn't actually be productive. But they wouldn't necessarily be wrong, I guess is my point. They wouldn't necessarily be wrong. It's really just a cultural agreement, or maybe even a tribal agreement, if we're going back that far, of how long it's appropriate to inspect something for or to interact with something for. And, this is why many great idiosyncratic thinkers that were naturalists often had this trait where they would become obsessed with profoundly simple things and go into detail with them. I mean, consider the people who used the first microscopes. As I look out over the shore and I see these millions of rocks, I'm already applying filters. I'm already seeing the ones that are larger, and I'm already seeing the ones that are smaller. I'm seeing the ones that have some slight amount of green on the tops. And it's this immediate categorization and immediate separation of things from other things that we do that is so useful to us as a species, that is also what is so dangerous sometimes. So if there is this conundrum that humans who allowed their filters to be stripped and to take in perception that's available as a whole with no judgment, if those people are dysfunctional in our society and non-productive, okay, maybe fair. So what happens when we reach a point where that's not really an issue? When you have something like the replicator in Star Trek, where you can have somebody who doesn't really need to contribute whatsoever to society. We've just become so technologically sophisticated that you can afford to not lift a finger ever, and there's no problem. You're still living abundantly. That will be a very interesting time for humans. It will be interesting to see who becomes more of an ascetic, who knows what types of human experience are available. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble about, I'm not really exactly sure, but it definitely felt good. You guys are definitely like an online diary for me in some ways. I normally would have just blasted this in some type of online paragraph in some journal somewhere. But nope, I can actually just share it with you guys now. So thank you to those of you that checked in on me while I've been gone these last couple months. I know that could be kind of odd when I sort of just retreat from social media altogether, but honestly, it feels really good, and I recommend more people do it. Pulling back from the ongoing catastrophe in some ways of our digital age is not the worst idea, honestly. If there is a way that you can increase your mental health by decreasing your activity on that little rectangle you're holding, do it. Do it, because it's been great for my mental health. I'll say that. And turn off your notifications too. Don't turn on your notifications for my channel. Turn off your notifications for my channel, and please have some peace of mind. This beach gets cold very fast. Maybe not unlike other beaches. I'm going to head back to my house. It was nice seeing the birds. It was nice seeing the island. It was nice seeing the sunset. And it was nice talking to you guys. And I'll see you next time.